Tonight, we're getting a new look inside a drug tunnel. This was found near the Arizona-Mexico border. Mexican authorities found it unfinished in a closed, broken-down store.
Thanks for joining Action News 5 at 10. I'm Joy Redman. An FBI operation ended in dozens arrested, including police officers, sheriff's deputies.
Right now, the FBI making a major announcement in Oxford today about a Delta drug conspiracy takedown.
We're here today to announce the indictment and arrest of 20 individuals, most of them law enforcement officers in the Mississippi Delta region. The indictments generally allege the taking of bribes to attempt to aid and abet drug trafficking, as well as associated crimes.
New this afternoon, U.S. Border Patrol agents have shut down a massive cross-border drug smuggling tunnel.
Officials say the unfinished tunnel was nearly 3,000 feet long.
The tunnel entrance was hidden beneath a false floor in a storage unit marked Family Archives. It was 3 in the morning in a dusty industrial park on the outskirts of Nogales, Arizona. The desert wind was howling against the corrugated metal roof. Inside, federal agents stood in absolute silence. They were staring down into a reinforced concrete shaft that dropped 30 feet into the earth. This was not a crude smuggler's hole dug with shovels and pickaxes. This was a masterclass in illicit engineering. The walls were lined with industrial steel bracing. High-voltage LED work lights illuminated a track system designed for mechanized cargo carts. The FBI and the DEA had been hunting for the source of a massive narcotics flood for 8 months. They expected to find a stash house. They never expected to find a subterranean superhighway. For 127 days, a multi-agency task force had monitored the border sector. They tracked suspicious heat signatures and intercepted encrypted radio bursts. The Sinaloa cartel and the CJNG had reportedly formed a temporary, unholy alliance. Their goal was to dominate the southwestern corridor. The sheer volume of illicit cargo hitting the streets of Arizona did not match the border checkpoint data. Something massive was slipping through unseen. When the tactical teams finally breached the Nogales storage facility, they uncovered the artery feeding the beast. This single concrete pipeline was responsible for moving 2.4 tons of narcotics into the United States. The tactical descent into the tunnel was a claustrophobic nightmare. A heavily armored SWAT element led the way down the steel ladder. Their tactical flashlights cut sharp, brilliant arcs through the thick, stagnant air. The atmosphere down there was suffocating, thick with the smell of wet earth, machine oil, and chemical solvents. The tunnel stretched for over a mile, cutting directly beneath the fortified international border. As the point man advanced, his boots splashed through shallow puddles of condensation. The walls were lined with heavy-duty PVC ventilation pipes and independent power cables. This infrastructure required millions of dollars to build. It required heavy machinery, geological surveys, and months of uninterrupted excavation. How does a cartel build a mile-long, commercial-grade tunnel without anyone noticing? That was the question echoing in the minds of the federal agents. The answer they found would shake the foundation of regional law enforcement. Halfway down the tunnel, the tactical team discovered a subterranean staging area. It was a widened cavern reinforced with thick wooden beams and cinder blocks. Stacked against the far wall were hundreds of tightly wrapped, vacuum-sealed bricks. The packaging was marked with distinctive scorpion logos, signifying the highest purity of synthetic narcotics. The sheer scale of the discovery was paralyzing. Federal evidence recovery teams spent the next 48 hours hauling the contraband to the surface. The final tally was devastating. They logged over 2 tons of methamphetamine, cocaine, and synthetic opioids. This was not just a cartel supply line. This was a weapon of mass destruction aimed directly at the American heartland. The 2.4-ton payload represented millions of lethal doses. If this shipment had reached the distribution networks in Phoenix, Denver, and beyond, the human casualty rate would have been catastrophic. The true cost of this subterranean pipeline is not measured in the billions of dollars of illicit profit. It is measured in the quiet, agonizing tragedies unfolding in emergency rooms and living rooms across the country. It is measured in the hollow stares of parents who find their children breathless on a bedroom floor. Every single brick of that poison represents a shattered family, a hollowed-out community, and a generation fighting for its life against an invisible, engineered epidemic. The cartels do not see these people as human beings. They see them as consumers. And they built a concrete highway to ensure the supply never, ever stopped. If you believe the architects of this suffering must face absolute justice, hit the like button to expose this cartel pipeline. While the physical seizure of the narcotics was a monumental victory, the investigation was just entering its most dangerous phase. Back at the command center, cyber analysts were tearing apart a ruggedized laptop recovered from the tunnel's staging area. The device was heavily encrypted, protected by cascading security protocols designed to wipe the hard drive if breached. But the FBI Cyber Division deployed a specialized brute force algorithm. It took them 3 sleepless days of continuous processing. When the encryption finally broke, the screen filled with a meticulously detailed digital ledger. This ledger did not just track the movement of the drugs, it tracked the movement of the money, and, more importantly, it tracked the payments made to protect the tunnel. The cartels had not built this underground empire in secret. They had built it in the shadows provided by the very people sworn to protect the border. The digital files contained a sprawling payroll of corruption. The names on the list were hidden behind alphanumeric codes, but the forensic accountants followed the digital breadcrumbs. They traced offshore wire transfers from a front company in Panama to a series of domestic shell corporations registered in Delaware. The financial trail led directly to the office of a highly respected regional border security director, an official known as Commissioner Hayes. For years, Hayes had been the public face of border integrity in Arizona. He gave impassioned speeches about law and order. He stood at podiums and demanded more resources to fight the cartels. Behind closed doors, he was the primary architect of the cartel's invisibility. The encrypted ledgers revealed that Hayes had been receiving massive, untraceable payments in offshore cryptocurrency accounts. In exchange, he provided the cartels with blind spots. He manipulated patrol schedules, ensuring that the ground directly above the tunnel excavation site was left completely unmonitored during critical construction phases. He ordered seismic sensors to be deactivated for routine maintenance exactly when the heavy digging equipment was operating. Hayes did not just look the other way. He actively facilitated the invasion of his own country. This betrayal cut deeper than any tactical failure. For the honest agents who risked their lives every night in the desert, discovering that their commanding officer was on the cartel payroll was a devastating psychological blow. The human cost of corruption is a cancer that destroys institutional trust. When a leader like Commissioner Hayes sells his badge, he is not just taking a bribe. He is selling the safety of every family living in the border communities. He is actively enabling the violence, the kidnappings, and the overdoses that ravage the region. The citizens who relied on his protection were completely abandoned, left undefended by a man who valued offshore bank accounts over human lives. The betrayal of the public trust is a wound that takes generations to heal. Armed with the decrypted ledgers, the federal task force initiated a massive, coordinated eradication operation. The element of surprise was their only advantage. At dawn on a Tuesday, over 300 federal agents mobilized across the state. The sky was still painted in bruised shades of purple and orange as heavily armored Bearcat vehicles rolled through the quiet, affluent suburbs of Phoenix. The primary target was the sprawling, gated residence of Commissioner Hayes. SWAT operators breached the wrought iron gates with a specialized hydraulic ram. The sound echoed like a cannon shot through the serene neighborhood. Agents swarmed the manicured lawns, their weapons raised, moving with fluid, practiced precision. Hayes was pulled from his bed, his face pale, his eyes wide with the sudden, terrifying realization that his shadow empire had collapsed. He did not say a word as the steel handcuffs clicked around his wrists. He knew the ledgers had been found. He knew the game was over. Simultaneously, secondary raid teams were hitting commercial fronts across the state. They breached a logistics company in Tucson that provided the transport trucks for the tunnel. They raided a financial consulting firm in Scottsdale that was laundering the bribe money. Within 6 hours, the FBI and the DEA had executed 22 arrest warrants. They seized luxury vehicles, frozen bank accounts, and millions of dollars in hidden assets. The underworld took more damage in that single morning than it had in the previous decade. But the operation also revealed the terrifying scale of the cartel's ambition. This was not just an Arizona problem. The logistics network connected the Nogales Tunnel to distribution hubs in Chicago, Atlanta, and New York. The cartels were attempting to build a franchise model of subterranean logistics, duplicating the tunnel's success across multiple border sectors. The discovery of this single pipeline was a massive victory, but it was also a grim warning. The enemy is constantly evolving, utilizing billions of dollars in illicit revenue to out-engineer and out-bribe the forces of law and order. As investigators sifted through the wreckage of Commissioner Hayes' office, they found the ultimate proof of his treason. Hidden in a false bottom of his desk drawer was a secondary burner cell phone. It contained direct, unencrypted text messages with cartel lieutenants. He had been providing them with the names and shift patterns of honest border agents, actively endangering the lives of the men and women under his command. The level of sociopathic greed required to sell out your own people is difficult to comprehend. The physical tunnel in Nogales has been filled with thousands of gallons of industrial concrete, permanently sealing the breach. The 2.4 tons of narcotics have been incinerated in secure federal facilities, ensuring they will never reach the streets. Commissioner Hayes and his co-conspirators are facing decades in federal prison, their assets stripped, their legacies reduced to cautionary tales of absolute disgrace. The tactical victory belongs to the relentless analysts, the brave operators, and the unyielding pursuit of justice by the federal agencies involved. But the war is far from over. As long as the demand for illicit narcotics remains high, the cartels will continue to dig. They will continue to seek out the weak links in the chain, searching for the next corrupt official willing to trade their soul for a number to count. The defense of the nation requires constant, unwavering vigilance. It requires a system that holds its own leaders to the highest possible standard of accountability, prosecuting corruption with the same ferocity used to hunt the cartels. If you want to see more deep dive investigations into how these networks operate and how they are dismantled, subscribe and comment your thoughts below. The desert is vast and the shadows are deep. The men and women of federal law enforcement stand on that line every single day, facing an enemy that possesses limitless resources and zero moral boundaries. They fight in the dark so that the rest of the country can live in the light. The dismantling of the Nogales Tunnel is a testament to their dedication, a stark reminder that no amount of concrete and no amount of corruption can keep the truth buried forever. Remember, this story is a work of fiction created for educational and entertainment purposes. If you found this compelling, drop a comment and share this video. Thanks for watching.